How did one of the most beloved animation channels on YouTube, with multiple videos hitting well over 10 million views, just disappear overnight, seemingly without a trace? No goodbye video, no final word to the people who grew up on it. Their penultimate upload, Caillou the Grown-Up, Caillou in Quarantine, came out 6 years ago and pulled in an incredible 7.2 million views. It's a lockdown episode where a 22-year-old Caillou torments his day-drinking, chain-smoking daddy through quarantine and gets flattened by a car. Viewers absolutely loved it, but it still wasn't enough to stop the channel getting closed. So what the hell happens to AOK? As one viewer put it, watching the silence stretch on. AOK didn't even say goodbye before they left, they just left. 1 week there was a cartoon, the next there was silence. And there has been silence ever since. So the internet did what it always does when something it loves dies without explanation. It formed a mob and went looking for someone to blame. It settled almost unanimously on Disney. Wow, so AOK is now part of Disney's body count of shut down studios. Another delivers the verdict like scripture. Disney kills everything that it buys. And if it hasn't been killed yet, it will in time. And that's a tidy story. There's a villain everyone already resents. And yet, there's one detail that lets the villain walk free. Because Disney never actually owned AOK. After having researched it, I know who actually pulled the plug. I also know something sadder, which is that it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Give me some time to explain, and you'll know this too. Who AOK really was. To understand how AOK could be switched off overnight, you need to know what it really was. Quick reminder to hit subscribe if you're enjoying the video so far. Thank you. Because the popular image, a couple of gremlins in a bedroom drawing Caillou having a heart attack, is, in actual fact, a fiction. And yet, you can hear that image in the comments. One viewer, wishing for a revival, wrote, "If only AOK could be brought back, and they are like those animators, like Hot Diggity Demon or Johnny Ethko. I feel horrible for them when they ceased operations thanks to Disney." So, let's kill the first belief now. AOK was never indie. It was backed by big money from day one, run by a company with a budget and a payroll. The scrappy underground look was just an outfit that it wore. So, who was the big money company behind the channel? Let's deal with the mouse, because it turns out they're getting rather a lot of the blame. Yes, the Disney theory has hardened into common sense in the comments, complete with fans even inventing Disney's motive for it. One asks, let me get this straight. A super rich company like Disney struggles to make decent entertainment, but it goes out of its way to shut down a beloved YouTube channel that admittedly had little to no negative impact on the company? Another supplies the reason. Perhaps Disney did not want AOK to parody many things from their rival companies. Whilst both of these comments sound reasonable, they share one flaw. Disney had nothing to do with any of this. In March 2019, Disney bought most of 21st Century Fox for $71 billion. They took the film and TV studios, plus a pile of channels. Rupert Murdoch kept what Disney passed on, chiefly the Fox Network, Fox News and Fox Sports, and packed it into a brand new company called the Fox Corporation. Now, let's trace the wire back from AOK. AOK was owned by a venture called Sidecar. Sidecar belonged to Fox Entertainment. Fox Entertainment belonged to Murdoch's Fox Corporation. And you'll notice there is no Disney anywhere on that cable. Somebody worked this out years ago and was heated about as widely as a man reading out last week's lottery numbers. Fox Corporation shut down AOK, not Disney. Disney and Fox Corporation are separate companies. Who actually pulled the plug? So, who actually did it? Well, on the 12th of June 2020, Fox dissolved Sidecar. The words came down in a staff memo from Fox's chief executive, Charlie Collier. The trade press covered it that same afternoon, and the reason was as dull as reasons get. Cost cutting, mid-pandemic with production frozen and the ad market in freefall. Fox was trimming, Sidecar was sadly on the list. And here's the part that really stings. If you read every word of that coverage, 3 of Hollywood's biggest trade outlets reporting the death of the company that made AOK, and yet AOK is not mentioned once. Not even a single line. The stories are about telepilots and where the executives were headed next. A generation's curse worst childhood ended in a budget meeting, and nobody in the room thought the channel was worth a sentence in its own obituary. Credit where credit's due, the cartoon movement covered this in their video The Real Reason AOK Disappeared Overnight, and they got most of the way there. I recommend you go and watch TCM's video after my one. One sentence needs picking at though, which is this one.
When Disney acquired 21st Century Fox in March 2019, they chose to shut down Sidecar Content Accelerator on June 12, 2020, which would largely affect AOK's channel in the process.
So the Disney deal is the event that created the independent Fox that owned Sidecar in the first place. It's just that the choice to kill it came a year later, from Fox's own box, in a Fox memo. That one line from TCM unfortunately handed the blame to the wrong company, and the comments ran with it. And if you're wondering why Fox didn't just sell the channel instead, well, it's because there was nothing to sell. AOK's whole library is built on characters other people own, so a buyer would inherit all the risk and none of the rights. The valuable part of AOK was the staff, and the staff were scattering. Fox closed the drawer and moved on. It would have died anyway. Now for the part that reframes everything. Even if the money had kept coming, AOK was standing in a building that was already being demolished. One Reddit comment got closer than most. I've heard rumours that they were being funded by some big corporate conglomerates, like College Humor was, until it met the same fate College Humor did. The corporate execs pulled the funding once they realised that big budget, corporately backed free content on YouTube that's only funded by YouTube's ad revenue is just not profitable or sustainable. They were actually far righter than they ever knew, because College Humor was the same story, just running 5 months ahead. In January 2020, its parent company IAC cut the funding and over 100 people lost their jobs in an afternoon. It was the same shape exactly. A beloved channel on corporate money and a plug pulled overnight. College Humor only survived because one employee bought the company and rebuilt it as Dropout. AOK was one house on a street that was already being cleared. Neither of these were one-offs. The funded middle class of internet comedy was being cleared out street by street. Was AOK censored? One question kept nagging at me. If AOK's content had been safe, would it be dead? Because think about what Fox actually inherited back in 2019. Dora in rehab, Caillou getting laid. Hundreds of drug jokes and sex jokes wearing the faces of children's characters, all parodying property owned by somebody else's lawyers. It might be edgy internet comedy for us, but to a risk-averse broadcast giant, that's a filing cabinet full of liability. Ultimately though, nobody banned AOK. But in September 2019, the FTC, a federal regulator, fined YouTube $170 million over children's data, and from January 2020, every video had to declare itself. Made for kids or not. And the problem is that AOK's whole catalogue looks like children's content and yet is aimed at adults. The system has no box for that. Tick made for kids and you lose the ads and most of your reach. Leave it unticked and the algorithm buries you while a regulator that has just ruined YouTube looks over your shoulder. The genre stayed perfectly legal and yet became impossible to afford. And this is why Fox never sold it. Everything that made AOK worthless to a buyer, the edgy jokes and the borrowed characters, is a fact about its content. Because a cooking YouTube channel with these numbers probably gets sold. AOK on the other hand got a draw. It died because of what it was. So then, was it actually censored? Well, no memo that I found actually ordered their silence. But a federal rule made the genre unaffordable, and a corporation looked at what AOK said and decided the saying wasn't worth the risk. And that, more than any memo, is the real shame of it. Watch an episode back now. You got adult Arthur, home in his 30s, broke, vaping in his childhood bedroom while his sister flames out as a food influencer with 74 followers. It is pure late 2010s. The wholesome character gone wrong joke was a whole genre once, and for a few years, it was everywhere. That whole style aged the way that most comedy ages, both quickly and not kindly. Ultimately though, AOK did nothing wrong. It made exactly what its moment wanted, right up until the moment ended. The rules changed, and the money left, and a whole era of YouTube got folded into the past with them. That's the timeline we're in. It's a shame, but it's also just what happened. It is what it is. The return? I got one last thing for you, and it's why I can't leave this story alone. Because AOK, it's died once before. At the end of 2018, the channel went dark and fans assumed that was the end. Then, in October 2019, a 30-second trailer appeared out of nowhere, all golden logo and cursive lettering, announcing that AOK cordially invites you back. And for a few glorious months, they delivered. AOK climbed out of its grave and got back to work. Indeed, that's what made the second death land harder, and it's the one the comments never got over. As one put it, and when we needed them most, they vanished. And the silence covers every platform they had. Their Twitter bio is still switched on, mid-comeback, above 6 years of nothing. It reads, to this day, we're back, melting faces one short at a time. Subscribe! And the pinned post at the top of the page, the last thing AOK ever chose to show the world is Candyman. Say his name 5 times and he'll appear. So, the law says you speak the name and he turns up. AOK said it one final time in June 2020, and then AOK was the one that vanished. So, could it come back? Well, it has managed a trick once. But even if the phone rang tomorrow, the lights would come on in a YouTube with no room left for what AOK was. The channel could be revived, its habitat sadly can't. Which leaves a page of forgotten cartoons, still online, waiting on a call from a company that no longer exists to return to a place that no longer exists either. So that's the real reason. Duller than the one everyone wanted? Yes. A corporate channel in indie clothing, working a genre YouTube stopped having room for, switched off by a parent that had already forgotten about it. It's a bloody shame, and it's also the timeline we're in. So, over to you. Is AOK gone for good, or does somebody eventually dust off the drowning gumball man? And the bigger question, do you miss that whole era of YouTube, or are we actually better now we've moved on? Let me know your guys' thoughts in that comment section below. I've been your host, Snipe Snap. He's been my cat, Lucky. Please smash that like button if you made it to the end. It helps promote the video. I really appreciate it. Till next time, Snipe, Snap, out.